This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Ho, there's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. Now, I did name drop this birthday boy in with the on this day stuff because he was doing the coin flip at Super Bowl 22. Well, I know this guy's dead, and I know that there were a couple of other players who were born on January 31st that are dead, like Jackie Robinson and Ernie Banks. But because I did Davy Johnson yesterday, the rule of thumb is that I don't do the same sport twice in a row unless it's absolutely necessary. And thankfully, I found Don Hutson. It would have been Ernie Banks probably, but anyhow, Don Hutson may have been dead since 1997, but this guy was an icon. Everyone knows good wide receivers like Jerry Rice, Chris Carter, Connor Cup, Tyreek Hill, As Hakeem, Torrey Holt, even Wes Welker, and John Stallworth, Lynn Swann. But this guy was the original superstar, Don Hutson. He played all 11 years for the Green Bay Packers, leading the Packers to 4 NFC championship games, winning 3 NFL titles, 36, 39, 44. This was the Packers crew before Bart Starr and all that. So he played 11 years for Green Bay. Here's the funny thing. He led the league in receiving yards 7 times and receiving touchdowns 9 yards. And he did play defense with safety because most players played both ways, offense and defense. Hutson was a 4-time All-Star and twice the NFL MVP. He's considered the first modern wide receiver because he created most of the pass routes in the NFL today. He was very dominant. He was the first 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL, and this was in the 1930s. He had basically every major receiving record when he retired. He was actually a charter member of both the College Football and Pro Football Hall of Fame. His number 14 was retired by the Packers, the first jersey to be retired. Hutson was one of the greatest players in the NFL's first 50 years and 75 and 100 years. So he was born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, but actually played wide receiver for Alabama. Kind of tough act, don't you think? But anyway, he was good. He helped the Bama team win the 1935 Rose Bowl against Stanford. Now, contrary to popular belief, it wasn't always Big Ten versus Pac-10, or whatever you want to call it now. They usually had a team from the Pac-8, as it was known, face a team from the East. Any team they felt fit and all that. It didn't have to be from the Big 8 or the Big 10, whatever we want to call it. Anyway, Bear Bryant was actually the other wide receiver and all that. So Bear Bryant actually played with Don Hutson. Wow, as a player. He was obviously there and all that. An attempt to name retroactive Heisman Trophy winners before 1936. Hutson would have won the 1934 one. Hutson did not plan on playing professional. In those days, the NFL was not highly regarded in the South compared to college football. Sometimes that's true nowadays. But Curly Lambeau knew that Hutson would be perfect. With Arnie Huber, a good quarterback, and another wide receiver by the name of John Blood McNally. So Lambeau decided to sign him. Now, this was before the NFL draft existed, so college players could play for any team they wanted. Hutson did sign a contract with Green Bay, but he also signed with the Brooklyn team. But Green Bay's contract had an earlier date of signing. They actually offered $300 a game, and this is in the Depression. Don Hutson was just that damn good. In his first season, he caught 6 touchdowns, which would lead the league. Of course, this is not the same NFL as we all know. It wasn't as pass heavy as it was nowadays. But freaking Don Hutson was an icon. I mean, a lot of it was the running game, but passing was just done out of necessity. But anyway, he did pretty well for himself. It was the first of 4 straight seasons he would lead the league in touchdown receptions. And basically, it was a good time to be Don Hutson. He set the league record for touchdown catches 1938 with 9. And then he stole the receiving yards total from Chicago Cardinals receiver Gaynell Tinsley. And helping Green Bay out. So, anyway, Don Hutson would catch 99 touchdown receptions in his career. 99. He didn't get 100. He was so close. And so, in fact, that record, when he retired, stood till 1989, when Steve Largent broke it. I thought Jerry Rice broke Hutson's record, but I guess it was Largent. But anyway, in 1942, he caught 74 passes for 1,211 yards and 17 touchdowns. Now that's moderate. Now that's a moderate. Now that's good if moderate. We're getting 17 touchdown catches in 1 year. That's huge. And this is 1942. Eddie actually, did all that. But unfortunately, even though he was league MVP in 1942, he did retire because of a lingering chest injury. Although he did change his mind and caught 11 touchdowns and all that. He was the extra point kicker and kicked every extra point perfectly and got a pick 6. Hutson again announced his intention to retire, but then again he came back in 1944 and led the league with receptions, yards, and touchdowns. And he was assistant coach for the Packers too. Hutson would announce his retirement for 1945, but then he came back. And Hutson was jokingly called the holder of the world's record for coming out of retirement. So you think Brett Favre was that bad coming out of retirement so many times, but Don Hutson did so too. I think he was bored. That's what I'm saying. In the second quarter, he caught, in a game against Detroit, he caught 4 touchdowns and he kicked 5 extra points for 29 points, which is the most points by a player in a single quarter. Hutson, at the end of his career, caught 480 passes for almost 8,000 yards. He was off by 9 and 99 touchdowns. He was rushed for 3 touchdowns, scored 2 touchdowns on block punts, and had a pick 6. Total of 105 touchdowns. Each one of his 11 seasons, he had at least 6 receiving touchdowns. And he led the NFL in receptions 8 times. You just couldn't get past him. Hutson's 17 touchdown receptions in 1942 was a record for 42 years before Mark Clayton did it as part of the Super Marx Brothers. Clayton and Duper, who got passes from Dan Marino in his 5,000-yard season. So this was just amazing that Hutson's record lasted for 42 years. He still holds the record for most touchdown receptions in a quarter with 4 in that game against the Lions. And his record 99 touchdown receptions stood for 44 years until 1988. And Hutson did not miss a game due to injury, even though they thought he had a chest problem. He was 6'1", 185 yards. Very fragile in a sense. Well, now in the heavier hitting days, in the 1990s and all that. Fair enough. So Hutson was also the Packers kicker and all that. So he was good. He was an assistant for the Packers till 1948. And Hutson did some stuff. He was on the Packers board of directors from 1952 to 1980. He retired from his car dealership and then settled in Rancho Mirage, California until his death in 1997. So Don Hutson was the first Packer to get his number retired. His number 14 was retired in 1951. It's amazing. And all that. He was part of the first class that went to the College Football Hall of Fame in 51 and the first class in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 63. He was just that damn good and all that. He was named the greatest Green Bay Packer of all time by NFL Network. I think that's pretty much, yeah. So anyway, Hutson could have been in the military, but he was classified IA-1A. That means he basically couldn't play and all that. Anyway, he still holds the following records. Most seasons leading the league in receptions, 8. Most consecutive seasons in that category, 5. Most seasons leading the league in receiving yards, 7. Most consecutive seasons in that category, 4. Most seasons leading the league in receiving touchdowns, 9. Most seasons leading the league in total touchdowns, 8. Most consecutive seasons in receiving touchdowns, 5. Most seasons leading the league in scoring, 5. Well, now tied. And most consecutive seasons leading the league in scoring, 5. So, yeah, as I said, he had almost 500 receptions and almost had 8,000 yards, but he had 99 touchdown catches in an era where the passing game was only a necessity. This guy was the king and the forerunner, the predecessor to Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, and even Randy Moss. This guy knew how to catch passes and burn defenses. That's the way it goes sometimes as a wide receiver. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.